Well, I've already said today's message is about identity. And part of it is about the identity of Jesus. And the truth is, Jesus will be who Jesus will be, regardless of who you think Jesus is. In the end, Jesus is going to be Jesus because Jesus is Jesus. I wanted to see how many times I could say that in a quick succession. I think that was good. A lot. The truth is, though, when Jesus asked this question, Jesus was asking about his impact on the disciples. Who did they see him for who he was? Now, I have to say to you that about the middle of the week, Tuesday, which is not really the middle of the week, although you start working on the sermon on Sunday afternoon. I do. Maybe you don't. I do. That on Tuesday afternoon, I was sitting in my chair reading the book, the gospel, and an illuminative moment came upon me. These moments are not always good. A song by The Who popped into my head. Who are you? Who? Do you really want to know? Who are you? Who? Now, you may say, Jesus didn't ask, who are you? He asked, who am I? But by asking, who am I, he was asking each one of the people in front of him to determine for themselves who they saw him as. Who is this person that we see in front of us? We have walked with him, we have talked with him, we've listened to him, we've seen him heal, we've seen him cast out demons, we've seen him do all sorts of things. This is late in the gospel now. They've been around him. And he wants to know, do you have any sense of who I am? Because that sense will shape who you are. That sense of connection to Jesus, that following of Jesus, will shape who you are. Now, we can say lots of nice things. I've even said before, in my own heretical style, that God doesn't really care what you believe about God. God cares what you do about what you believe about God. There are plenty of people in the world who believe all sorts of things. You ask them, I don't know, the last most recent Gallup poll I saw said if you ask people if they believe in God, like 90% of Americans say they believe in God. But if we were to look at each other's lives, would we see that we believe in God in the way that we live, in the way that we act, in the way that we are? Is it our identity as followers of Jesus such that when we leave this space, and you'd like to believe that as your pastor, when I leave this space, that somehow the following of Jesus is not just something I do for this, hour that I'm standing here. That it's something I'm doing every day in every moment. And I think part of our life, and why I called this ripening, is we are learning to live, breathe, sleep, act, dream, think like Jesus. To be more and more, to ripen in our relationship with Jesus in such a way that when we engage the world, we engage the world as Jesus would engage the world. With the same love and kindness and willingness to listen. Ask good questions. If you've been following along in the weekly podcast for Doolin, or you've been watching the weekly moments, you know that the last 4 weeks I've been talking about how we're meant to be like Jesus. And this last week it was like, ask good questions. Because when we ask good questions, we discover answers that often lead to more questions, that often lead to better answers and more questions. It's an ever-unfolding thing. If you think about every dating relationship or every engagement you've had with another human being, some of the first questions you ask, what do you do for a living? Where did you go to school? What's your name? Where do you work? Do you know so-and-so that I know because we live next door to each other? Or any of those kinds of things become questions that shape our relationship. It's the answer to those questions that lead to deeper questions. I recently was in Barnes & Noble, a place I love to go. It's not always good for my bank account, but I go there anyway. And I found this book. I don't know what the name of the book is, but it's a book of 365 questions that you can discuss with your spouse day by day as you deepen your relationship. And so, while I bought it 3 weeks ago, we have now addressed 3 questions. So maybe it's not 365 days, maybe it's 365 weeks. I'll tell you how it all turns out in the end. If Linda stops sitting over here, you'll know where it went. Not so good. Questions tend to shape who we are. They tend to ask us to be certain we know what we're talking about, what we think about a certain situation. So when Jesus says, "What is everybody else saying about me?" I don't know if he even really cared what everybody else was saying about him. But they answered, and they had all sorts of intriguing answers. And then Jesus asked the disciples. You can just see the look on their face. It'd be like if I quizzed you right here in the middle of the sermon about a sermon I preached, 6 months ago. And I asked you to tell me exactly what I said in the 3rd line, which, by the way, I couldn't answer either. I don't even remember what I was talking about 6 months ago. 6 months ago would have been February. I was talking about the Lord's Prayer. We were probably the 6th phrase, Wella Tahlan Lanes, I'm not sure. But it doesn't matter. When I ask a question, it would put you on the spot. Jesus put the disciples on the spot. You follow me around. You've seen everything I do. You purport to know who I am. Have you wasted your life by coming along behind me? Have you wasted your life? And so he wanted to know. Now, if you know anything about Peter, that boy will say anything that comes to his mind. There's no filter on that boy. No filter at all. He wants to say something, he's going to say it, and he did. You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. That's a pretty big claim on Jesus. Because when Peter said it, what did he mean for himself? For the most part, now you are all on the journey of faith somewhere. You've either said, this faith thing doesn't really matter, but I really like hanging out at Doolin because they have great music. Or I really like the people I sit next to. Or coffee fellowship. By goodness, I've got to be there every week. You never know what kind of cake or sugar I'm going to get to feed myself. Maybe that's why, or my friends go there. I don't know. But I'm going to imagine that we all came here because there was something about this Jesus guy. Something about him. And we wanted to know more about him so we could be more like him. Not just so that we could believe. I've already told you, in heretical fashion, I'm not sure God cares what you believe. God cares what you do with what you believe. Jesus never said so much, wasn't so interested, yes, there's a believe in me, believe all, that kind of thing. But for the most part, when he encountered a disciple, he wanted to come along, he said, follow me. And that following was, look at my example and live in to that example. Be like me. Be like me. Watch me, listen to me, and be like me in the way that you encounter each other. So you watch a lifetime of a man who puts up with people who are constantly testing him, trying to disgrace him in public. You watch a man who has to make life and death decisions in front of crowds. Read John 8, one of my favorite sections of the Gospel of John. The woman caught in adultery. Where was the man? I don't know. That's another question for another day. And the religious people wanted to stone her to death. And Jesus' answer is, hey, whoever's got no sin, you cast the first stone. And needless to say, embarrassed as they were, suddenly all the men, one by one, and they were men, disappeared. And the woman was left standing with Jesus. Go and sin no more. Who condemns you? Nobody. All right, go and sin no more, that thing. Who we say Jesus is matters because it shapes who you are. It's the way you do business. It's the way you treat your coworkers, your neighbors, the person you don't know in Target who just cut in line in front of you. You know, do you catch them by with your foot and, whoops, I'm so sorry, you're flat on the floor. Let me help you up. Boom! Oh, I'm so sorry, hit your head on that thing. Maybe don't cut in line in front of me again, you know, kind of thing. Or do you just let it go? Or is it a justice issue? Who are you to be in front of me? Get thee behind me, Satan. You know, I don't know. You've got some good Jesus quotes. You could just throw them around. Would they be the right quotes for that moment? I don't think so. Or could you just say, I don't know what this person is going through. I don't know why they cut in front of me in line. Am I really in a hurry? Can I let this slide this time? What about when you get to the front of the line and you get to that harried person? Or these days, you know, that harried-looking computer screen where you're self-checking out because there's no person you have to talk to. I always talk back to the machine. Welcome to Target. Well, thank you very much. How are you today? Doesn't respond. The truth of this whole dance is who you say Jesus is has an impact on how you are meant to live in your everyday lives. How you spend your money, how you treat people you like, how you treat people that irritate the living bejeebers out of you. I'm sure you don't have any of those people. I've already told you, I have people like that, but never here. Somewhere else, far away. How do we, Bill? Right. The truth is, we are meant to identify who Jesus is for us. And our way of identifying him is supposed to have an impact on who we are. You don't change who Jesus is by believing in Jesus, by following Jesus, but it certainly changes who you are. Suddenly, you feel like you have to be more careful about the way you talk to each other, the way you treat each other. You become indignant when you see someone who is the least of these being mistreated by a society that supposedly is for all people, not just for all people who look like me, or act like me, or from the same place I am. And when we see that, we become indignant and we are meant to respond. We are called out if we take Jesus seriously. So the question becomes for us, born out of this, it's not just who do you say Jesus is, but how seriously do you take that? It's nice enough to say he's the Messiah, you know, the Son of the living God, but so what? So what? So what if it doesn't change the way I live and love and engage the world? Peter still had a lot to learn. If you follow the story, immediately following this, Jesus tells him what the cost of discipleship is. Taking up your cross and, you know, I'm about to be betrayed. It's all over for me. And Peter said, no, I will never let it happen. And Jesus says, get behind me. Get. Day when I invite you to, I know you're going to make my first. I still. Guy ever seriously, and knowing with Jesus, love each other and give that you're being like, but there's always, look for ways to, there's always, when you're out, and only a moment, and know you're going to make, we measure ourselves saying of others. My first, could we pray all that we have? Could we pray and the praise both today? I still. Seriously, love each other and love each other and love each other and knowing and pray remain 540. I'm not going to sing. Trying your best. I hear it. You engage. each other and there's always look for ways to be. Jesus wants you, Jesus wants you, Jesus wants you. But when you're out as well, you or want as well, you probably question whether today we have a slot still, or if parking lot, or if
now have attractions, one day, or establishing